Welcome to the Auric Investigators Podcast with Vicki McHale, a mutant 4/6 emotional generator with a line 1 motivation, and Lauren Wenzel, a collective 5/1 mental projector. Join us as we deep dive into off the beaten path subjects. But be careful, because we might just make you think, or even better, burst a few outdated bubbles around what you've been led to believe is truth. Agree or disagree, it's okay, because we have nothing to prove. So let's get started.
All right. Hello and welcome to our podcast and channel with your hosts, Vicki McHale and Lauren Wenzel. So today we are going to go into something completely new and different that has been birthed in our little tight-knit human design community that I have not seen anyone else talk about and go into or even mention. And so this is going to be really, really juicy. It's going to blow your mind. So whatever you're doing, you might want to make sure you're not going to be distracted for the next 30 plus minutes as we tell you some really, really interesting intel and things for you to just contemplate first. So we're going to start with dreams. So everything that you know about dreams, maybe you don't even really know anything. But how we have been taught to analyze dream and going into the psychoanalysis and the symbolism and the this and the that. Sorry to burst your bubbles, but it's completely false. Almost everything, I would say. After going through this experiment with the dreams in human design, it has opened up, I can't even tell you how many different layers. So if you think the experiment is intense and practicing your type, your strategy, your inner authority, learning about your circuitry and your gates and your channels and knowing your open and undefined centers, we'll just buckle up, because the Dream Rave, that's what we call it in human design, is a whole other dimension. So Vicki, how was it for you when we started the Dream Rave and when we started learning about this stuff?
I was in shock because there are periods of times where I go through and I have just very, very vivid dreams. And I was thinking about, like, if you dream about dolphins. And so I would wake up and I would Google what dolphins mean. And so, dolphins mean you need to be more playful, or maybe you're getting, downloads from up above during your sleep or what have you. And so I would really get into these. Like, I would have some dreams where I'd be looking up the color red because it'll say red sweater. So I kind of had a disconnect in the beginning. I was thinking, could this really be true? But the more we got into it and the more we learned about how we are actually conditioned within the program through our dreams, and we started talking about the different gates and channels within the Dream Rave, and I started seeing the patterns of my dreams, I was absolutely blown away. And I have seen one of my gates is obsession, and I have seen how in my waking, I will dream about something and then wake up and just stew in that and ruminate on it all day long. And it completely throws me off track. And once I realized I was actually being conditioned, and that the dreams that we have, that we wake up and either don't make sense or put us into rumination, are actually conditioning elements. It opened up so much for me, but also understanding that we actually have different portals within our dreams, that sometimes we're getting prophetic dreams, and how to know the difference between the two. I had to laugh, like the person that has, what is it, the gate 17, and they dream about this message from God, and they wake up and say, I had this dream last night, and they're on Facebook and they're saying, somebody needs to hear this message. There's a woman who died in a fire, and I just know it's going to go into the right person. And then you learn about how this is a conditioning element, and it's just like, it almost makes it kind of funny how easily, so.
Right. So let's back up a little bit, because this is like going so far past human design. So if anybody's new to human design, but is interested, or if they've been experimenting with their chart for a while, this might even sound so out there. So let's back up and talk about like how this really came into fruition. Like we have a amazing human design teacher. Her name is Raquel Reina, and she's the one who really birthed this and brought this intel to her human design community. And what was really interesting about it, because Vicki, if you're listening, you heard Vicki talk about obsession. So that has to do with the different line numbers in the gates in your Dream Rave. And I'm going to show, if you're on YouTube right now, I'm going to show what a Dream Rave chart looks like. And it's different compared to your regular human design chart. So when you're dreaming, and it will show you different activations that you have, or different gates that you have while you're sleeping. And then it will say the line number. So as Vicki was talking about, she has one of the gates, and then it's then a line number that has to do with obsession. And so it's going to be different with the line numbers in the dream compared to the waking. So for example, in the waking, line 4 is all about opportunity and your network. But in the dream, it's different. It's obsession. It's obsessing almost in like your network. It just shows up very differently. And the dreams and the Dream Rave, it's almost like this very ephemeral, that's like the word we kept using in the class, experiment, and like experience as we were going through everything, because it's like you can't grasp it. Like human design and knowing your chart and understanding the gates, that's something that you can pretty much like contemplate and somewhat understand. But I'd say for the dreams and the gates and the different types of dreams, and then your dream type, it's very like, it doesn't really like land at first. You kind of have to like mull it over a little bit and see how it comes up as you're dreaming or reflecting back on it. And then it will kind of like bubble up and pop. That's kind of what my experience was like. And seeing what gates that you do have in your dream compared to the ones that it doesn't show up in your waking. We're calling those our Achilles heels, because that's going to be a huge conditioning element. I mean, talk about being conditioned through your undefined and open centers, but then the gates that you don't even have in your waking, that you have in your dreams, it's a whole other contemplation. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to look at a Dream Rave chart. So 70% of the population, so this is the chart. So you notice how many gates are there only in the Dream Rave, Vicki?
There's 15 gates in the Dream Rave as opposed to 64 in the waking chart. And in the Dream Rave, you have no head, no ajna, and no solar plexus or ego center. So there's only 5 energy centers activated.
Well, there's two energy centers, but then 5 regular centers.
Yes, 5 energy. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So 70% of the population, when we're asleep, are reflectors. So compared to when we're awake, the population, we only have 1% that are reflectors. So when we were learning this intel, those of us who are reflectors, when we sleep, we're kind of holding down the matrix and conditioning people in the dreams. That was kind of like an uncomfortable, like, oh geez, like, I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And this stuff is like such new information that it's kind of a little bit of like a shock. So seeing how somebody, for example, we're using this, this chart. So this person is a reflector when they're sleeping, but then when they're awake, they're a generator. So noticing if somebody is a reflector when they're sleeping and being conditioned as a reflector in the dreams compared to showing up and being a generator in the waking and following their strategy and inner authority.
I know it's so Freaky Friday. And I will just remind people that if you want to see the Dream Rave chart, our episode is on YouTube under Auric Sleuths. So this whole podcast is being broadcast so that you can, or recorded so you can actually see in person what we're talking about.
Right. And if you, we're using genetic matrix software, and I believe you can access your dream chart if you have a paid membership, or you could contact somebody, one of us, somebody who does human design readings, who knows about the Dream Rave, that could get you your Dream Rave chart too.
Yeah. And so now what if somebody is a generator in the Dream Rave, Lauren? What's the difference? Like say they're a generator, sleeping and awake.
Right. So then that's a really good thing, because that's going to be a common theme for them. They're not going to be conditioned out of their type when they're dreaming. So I know a few people, they're like a projector when they're sleeping and when they're awake. So that consistent aura type is really supportive for them. But if you have somebody who's like an energy type when they're sleeping compared to when they're awake, that's going to be a huge struggle, because they're going to feel all energized when they're sleeping and dreaming, and then when they wake up, they're going to feel maybe more tired because they're non-energy type.
I have a client, I adore her. She's a mental projector, and she has really had some struggles in her journey, and she's just now learning that she's a mental projector, which means she has nothing under the throat. She has no energy centers whatsoever. Well, when she goes to sleep, she becomes a 50-27 generator. And so she can't sleep. So she's tired all day and then awake all night and turning.
Yeah.
That when I saw that, I thought, oh my Lord, you poor girl.
Yeah. And I know, one of my friends, her husband, I believe he's a projector when he sleeps, and then a manifestor when he's awake. So there can be the conditioning element of really waiting to be invited instead of informing, for him to be informing in his strategy. So it's just very interesting to see these dynamics. And then also, so we have, I believe there's the reflector, which is the most common one when you're sleeping, the projector, the generator. I've also seen manifesting generators, and I don't believe I think there's the manifestor too that can show up in the dreams, but that's pretty rare as well.
That would be the 2057.
The manifestor?
Yeah.
So the manifestor, it would be the energy center to the throat. It would have to come to the throat.
Yeah, so the 2057 or the 2212.
Yeah, the 20, right. It would have to be that.
And
So
so
then,
that's the person, if they're a generator or projector, when they're awake, they're being conditioned while they sleep that they're the just do it person.
right. And just informing everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I'm a reflector when I sleep and I'm a projector when I'm awake. So when I was going through this process and really contemplating this, I noticed in my dreams, I really sample a lot. I sample different environments. I sample different dreams. So there's no emotional center in the dreams. So my dreams aren't really emotional. If I wake up and it's conditioning me and it's stressful, then I may experience some emotions, but in the dreams, it's not. But I noticed that when I was going against, I guess, like a program in my dreams, I would get like, I don't know, the agents in my dreams, like the Matrix reacting at me instead of really just like witnessing in my dream and not really engaging and kind of just seeing what the dream had for me and then moving on. That's one of the biggest things I noticed when we started doing the contemplation of the dreams as a reflector, and then just seeing like, am I being that way in waking life? Am I really following my strategy as a projector? So it's still something that, I mean, we really got into it this year, the beginning, I think it was the end of last year, the beginning of this year, and seeing how it's still unfolding and deconditioning through the dreams.
And one of the things I want to talk about, especially for people who are watching this on YouTube, they could be sitting here looking at the three different areas, the light field, the demon, and the earth plane. And I especially want to explain that because especially that demon realm can sound so scary. So I would like to go through the different realms, because the light field, that is basically where in your dreams you are conditioned that the spiritual world is much more important than the physical world, and it throws you off balance. These are the people that can have a spiritual awakening, and the next thing you know, they're selling all of their worldly possessions and going to live on the mountain, because the spiritual world is so much more important. And this is how we can really get thrown off balance in our lives. And then the demon realm, that is just where you are conditioned through your dreams that the physical world is so much more important than the spiritual world. The house, the car, the 2.5 children is so much more important than bringing spirituality into your world, and again can throw you off balance. And then did you want to explain the earth plane?
Sure. Yeah, the earth plane, that's all about the earthly chaos. So what's going on in the earth plane, the chaos in the world. And depending on where you have activations or gates. So for example, this person has two activations in the demon realm, one in the earth plane and then none in the light field. So for this person, it might be a little more hard for them to lean into the spirituality and the light of things and be a little more consumed with like worldly possessions or tapping into like what's going on in like the earthly chaos. And like earthly chaos can be anything from what's going on the other side of the globe compared to where you are, like a lot of collective stuff that's just going on, whether that's like the environment, political stuff, collective themes. That's where you're going to see most of that earth plane. It's the hardest one to tap into, even though we have like that demon realm name, but you have to understand that Ra, he was a shocker, and that was part of his incarnation cross. He used words to shock people into awakening and contemplation.
Yeah, absolutely. And the earth plane one is, I have to laugh now that I know about this. You see the people that, should you take a knee or not? If
Mhm.
you're a sports figure, or, was the implosion of what was it? The submarine? Was it a setup? And so
Mhm.
you just get so into, and you're conditioned in your sleep for those types of things. And obviously, you want balance between the earth plane, the spiritual realm, the material world. You want
Mhm.
balance, but we can really get conditioned to lean one way or the other.
Right. And we learned that, going through each realm and different attributes of it, it's like each one is important. Not There's not one that's more important than the other. Because I mean, we can see the extremes of somebody being so, like Vicky was saying, in the spiritual and just disconnected from the body. Like the demon realm really has to do with the body too, as well, being in the body. I know for a lot of spiritual people, that can be a huge struggle, because it's like, especially if you have light field activations, it's going to be a little bit harder for you to be connected in the body and like enjoy the material plane and your material possessions. Or for if you have a little bit more of those demon realm aspects and gates activation, it might be a little bit harder for you to connect to the spiritual and see the light and this more like detached place of being. And then if you have a lot of earth plane activations, you might be really caught up in the earthly chaos. It could, I've seen this with people who get so absorbed in, like Mother Earth is dying. We need to pray for her. We need to do this. And like, yes, that is true. But, and if it's coming from like a victim mentality place and like a doomsday thinking, that's not really going to make yourself feel great. And that energy that you're like spreading, it could just kind of keep people in like that fear, which, I mean, let's face it, that's a majority of like how people control other people, is through that fear mongering. That really just keeps people powerless, instead of really inviting people into their power and their decision making, seeing what's true for them and what's not. And I think human design is an amazing tool for that. It's really shifting from that place of like, oh, this person is the guru, this person is the teacher, this person is the authority, and then putting it back on, no, I am, that's me. And then everyone else is too.
Yeah. One of the ones, which one is it that the arts, was it the 8?
Yeah, the 1 and the 8. Yeah, the 8 is that one.
That one just cracked me up, because how often do you have a child and they want to go to college and get a degree in the arts or what have you? And within the collective, where do we, oh my gosh, you can't make money in that. And there's such a disdain for making money through the arts. Well, that conditioning comes through the Dream Rave.
That's a really good point, and it's actually in the light field. So
Yeah.
art is it here to be expressed in the light, but it's not in a way to be like detached from your body. It's like this like grounded experience. And I feel like that's such a brilliant point to highlight, that anybody can be successful doing what they love and having
Yes.
that passion.
But we're so conditioned out of it
Right.
in the Dream Rave that, a lot of times if your kid comes up and says, oh, I want to get a bachelor's degree in, making, I don't know, clay mugs, it's like, no,
Right.
So yeah, it's the more you get into this, the more enlightening it becomes. And
Mhm.
oh my gosh, how come we could never see all of these things,
Right. So let's get into the different types of dreams. And then also, I want to let everybody know that we're going to do a part 2 of this as well, because it's so many layers and we're still researching because we're investigators, and line ones are like really prominent in both of our charts. So we're still investigating, we're still contemplating, we're still seeing how certain things show up, not only in our charts, but a lot of people charts that we know, and we are seeing different themes. So we're just bringing you the basics of the Dream Rave right now. And then we're going to go into part 2 of expanding into that too with this contemplation. Is there anything else that you wanted to highlight of the chart before we go into the different dream types?
You know what? I don't want to highlight the chart, but I do want to highlight the fact that starting with, and I don't have my calendar here, and I probably should have had it before I said this, but the third Thursday of each month at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, we are going to go live in the Auric Sleuths Facebook, on the Auric Sleuths Facebook page, and we will be there to answer any questions. So we will be there live. So if there's anything we're talking about that you would like more information on, we will go in and dig deeper on any of our episodes. So please mark your calendars for that. If you're interested, the third Thursday of each month at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, please join our Facebook group or Sleuths, and we would love to come in there and chat with you more on this. So,
yeah, thank you so much for that, Vicki. And we'll provide all the links and stuff in the descriptions as well. And like I said before I stop sharing the screen, you're going to see more like the different codon. So this says, if you're watching it through YouTube, codon waking impact. And so we're going to go into this more in the second episode, or the part 2 of this discussion. And then you're going to see, like, if it says Saturn or D/Saturn, and then the gate, and then it has a description of environments and possession. So that's just where the placement is for each gate. We didn't really go into the planetary aspects of the gates, but what was really important was the gate and then the line number. And so we'll, depending on part 2, we might expand on the line numbers a little bit. So, but we really want to focus on something that's super important that has to do more with the codons in part 2. So I think the biggest thing for me was, when we were going through the Dream Rave, was noticing where we were being conditioned. So most people have ordinary dreams, which are the conditioning dreams, and they have this stress, they have maybe like a pattern, a theme to like certain dreams that you might experience a lot, and then you're waking up and then it's downloading into your awareness of like, I had this dream. And then you might go into like psychoanalysis, you might go to analysis, you might go into judgment, any like negative feelings about it. That's programming you through your day. So you're literally being programmed and conditioned through these types of dreams that you're having into your waking. So as we were going through this experiment and just noticing, okay, this is the type of dream I'm having. And I still notice like, oh, I'm wanting to analyze, like, just having that awareness and practice, it gets easier to notice when you have those type of dreams. And then what is really awesome is it starts to change and you start having different types of dreams, which is actually how we're supposed to experience dream, is sharing the dreams, because we share our life in the waking, but we don't necessarily share our dreams with each other. And so that was really like awesome how we were sharing like our dreams together. And then we started dreaming together. People were having this similar dreams, people showing up in different, in each other's dreams, like getting synchronicities. I mean, it was so powerful. What did you notice, Vicki, with your dreams?
Well, I had a few of those situations. Myself and another woman in the group, she was going through a difficult time. And I had a dream about her, like a message. And so the next day I woke up and I'm like, sweetie, I had this dream and this was what the dream said. And she was just blown away because it coincided with a trauma that she had been working through since she was a child. And I was able to give her a piece of the puzzle. But then what blew me away even more is she came back and she says, you're not going to believe this. I had a dream about you too. And we were in a beauty shop and somebody started harming you and you were on the floor and I came in and started screaming, fight back, fight back. Well, what she didn't know is that was a childhood trauma that I had of being attacked in a beauty shop and was something that I had been working through. And she was telling me, in the dream, it was fight back, keep fighting through it, keep going through it.
Wow.
So that same night, we each had a dream about each other. And the next day when we touched base, we were able to give each other a piece of the puzzle from being in that class together and sharing dreams. So it was I gobsmacked.
Exactly. And like that to me, like this has opened such another dimension. And like when you were just sharing, because I know I've heard you guys like share these dreams, but what just opened up even more was time travel. You had a time travel experience. She was able to time travel and help shift something because
Yes, I do have the time travel gate.
yeah.
So.
And so that's what's so fascinating about the dream rave and this contemplation is noticing the stressful dreams, not getting attached to them, letting them, whatever, if they show up, it's not making a judgment, but then having these other really powerful dreams, whether it's like a time travel dream, a power dream, which is where you receive like a gift, a mediumship dream, which is like you connect with people who have passed over or transitioned, which I had a couple during this experience that was just so profound. And then the experience of when you wake up, it's so different than when you wake up from a conditioning dream. I mean, it's just like I noticed I was so excited to wake up. I was so excited to share my dreams and experience them with somebody else. And then also the message that I received from a dream. And then I got to start my day. And I feel like that is the true power from doing this experiment with your dream rave and then sharing this with other people. And I got to tell you, I started doing this with one of my clients and it was really waking up something with him more and more. And like, I mean, it was so amazing to witness what he really tapped into and what was coming up for him. And I feel like a lot of like, you get to heal through your dreams too. Like a lot of childhood stuff that's still like a little unresolved will pop. And then other people that you're sharing this experience with will come in and to support. Yeah, it's just,
Well,
it's amazing.
A couple of things just came up for me because I see this as being a big thing within our society. If you have a fear of death or a fear of something happens within your family falls apart or what have you. And I can speak from experience and having that gate 19, and then what is that? That's obsession and possession. And so for the longest time, and you know how you see people get stuck in tragedy. They can't get over somebody's death. They can't get over losing their family or what have you. I saw that come through in my dreams, because in my dreams, I will dream about being back in the environment with my family, have you. And then I wake up and go into this. I need to know what happened. Why was there the breakdown? What could I have done different? And so it becomes an obsession to figure out what happened, or what could I have done different if somebody's parent passes away and they take on the guilt of that, as I should have done that. That's a conditioning element within our dream state, depending on the gates and stuff that you have. So some people could have a very similar situation, and one person gets over it like that, and the next gets stuck in it for years. Well, they get into this conditioning in their dream, and then what happens is we bring that into the collective of, and not that I would ever say losing your family or your family falling apart or what have you is ever a good thing, but it becomes obsession, and family isn't the only thing, it's everything. And it's guilt of when somebody dies or what have you. That's how, these traditions become born, of the pain and the suffering. And so we're conditioned in our sleep, and then we bring it into the waking, and it becomes the norm of suffering. And where some people, they don't necessarily buy into that, as it happened, I did some healing around it and I moved on, where other people get stuck in that. And I do believe for a lot of people, it's the various gates that they have, and then that becomes the norm, because they bring it in and say, well, you're supposed to suffer, or if you, God forbid, you lose a child, and then that has to take over your whole life. And I do believe that's a conditioning element from that, the dream rave.
Yeah, and I don't even think we realize how programmed and conditioned we really are with certain things. Like, it's so deeply embedded, because as you were talking, I just thought, oh yeah, that's probably kind of normal, but it is like a really deep conditioning element. Like, that's a really good thing to highlight. And for those of you who don't know, as we got like closer to the completion of this course, Vicky really leaned into, just her genius, which is that individual circuitry. And there's just so many different layers to this, and what she's been contemplating and exploring and putting together. It's like, I don't even have the words. It's like life-changing. It really is, to like have, like, really just understand your DNA sequence code through human design. And that way it's like people can, stop relying on doctors to maybe like not know what is actually going on with them, compared to looking at their human design chart and looking not only like at their waking, but like the sleep and the dream rave and the different conditioning elements through that as well. And unfortunately,
I think you just brought in an element that might confuse people. And so just to backtrack, is we're going to bring in the DNA codons in our next episode. But yes, there is health information in the dream rave also. So, and thank you for calling me a genius. My ego loves you.
I'm just speaking truth, girl. She is the mad scientist and genius for sure.
Yeah, which is so funny, is to find out I have the streak in me, because if you would have ever told me 10 years ago that one day I would be talking about DNA codons and dream raves and the I Ching and quantum physics, I would have looked at you like, what?
Oh yeah, I resisted a lot of I guess who I was stepping into and what other people saw, and I was like, no, that's not me. But it's like that undefined G.
Oh
It's like
yeah.
wearing a bunch of different hats this life. But um anyways, wrapping up this first part of the dream rave and the types of the different types that someone will just be one type in the dream rave. Um, and then the different realms. We kind of got into a little bit about the gates, the different dreams that you can actually have and what to look out for. I think it's a nice opener to really just contemplate and see. And if you're somebody who really likes to do the dream analysis and the symbolism and this and that, I just want to invite you to notice if it's keeping you trapped in your mind and actually answering questions for you. And if it is, that's great. Like if whatever works for you, but we really want to provide this new intel to people who are curious and willing to like experiment and try and see what happens. And if you want to explore more individually and really get in tune with your own, like come to our Facebook group, come to our live. Like me and Vicky, we are going to put together some also group combined readings as well.
Yeah. And it just hit me as we were talking is a lot of the dream information that people go on there, like it just kind of hit me, is yes, it takes us deeper into the conditioning because we have this dream and it is conditioning us. And then we wake up and we go, what does the red sweater mean? And what does the truck mean? And what does this mean? By the time we're done, it's like, oh, it means I shouldn't have done this, or it means I need to do this.
Right.
And so it actually, a lot of the dream programs and a lot of the sites that have you break down what the different colors and the items and all of that means, is it just brings you deeper into the conditioning element. I mean, wow.
I can't tell you how many times I would obsess over certain dreams that I would have. And I had like a pattern with the dreams. Like I would dream about usually roughly like half a dozen of the same people over and over again. And it would be a certain theme and pattern. And I would go into the analysis and I would judge myself and I would make up a story about it. But then once I started noticing and contemplating and taking this information on, I was just like, oh, this actually is just showing up from my dream rave and it's conditioning me and it's spreading here. So let me just notice. Let me not make up a story or get upset or this or that. And then I noticed I kind of stopped having these dreams. And then I started activating these other dreams where I was tapping into like astral traveling and flying and tapping into my power. And I mean, it was so freaking cool, the type of dreams that I have been having. And then I had a dream with my dad who has transitioned almost, it's going on 5 years now. And that was so healing. He showed up and he looked like he'd be around the age that he probably would be now if he was still alive. And it was so simple. It was pretty ordinary, but it was like so amazing and peaceful. And I got the message I needed and it was over. And I like woke up with so much energy that it was like, I know it was because the power of all the deconditioning from the dreams that we've been doing that all these things were turning on, and everybody in our group were having these amazing dreams and contemplations as well.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I think I'm talked out. Is there more that you have to say?
I think that was a great opener, a great first discussion of the Dream Rave, and to tease people into their contemplation, seeing how they can get their dream charts. Anybody who is interested, needs help, please reach out to us. Our information will be in the description links as well. And if you want to share this with anybody else who might be interested and want to experiment with their dreams too with you, that'd be great. And stay tuned for part 2, because that is literally gonna blow your mind, thanks to Vicky. So until next time, bye everyone.
Hey, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, we absolutely love your feedback. So check out those links below and reach out with your insight, feedback, and even your ideas. And until next time, remember...
That's all, folks.